If you've been paying attention to EV news over the last couple of weeks, I'm sure you've seen several articles about this McKinsey Mobility Consumer Pulse survey that says that 46% of EV owners in the United States are considering switching back to internal combustion engines. Rachel and I are going to get into these numbers and see what it means. It's the 4th of July in Texas, and sitting in the cabin of this car is about the coolest place we can be right now, so that's why we're here. When this survey came out a couple of weeks ago, I had a whole lot of other content that was already going up on the channel, and I figured I'd just let the other YouTube channels deal with it. But this particular survey just won't go away. It keeps showing up in news publications, it keeps showing up on EV forums and on threads, and I figured it was probably a good time for Rachel and I to address it. So let me take a look at the main statistics that come out of this. There's a lot in this survey, an awful lot, but I'm only going to focus on the question about current EV owners considering switching back to ICE, or internal combustion engines. Right now, it's 29% globally. There's thousands of people surveyed. It says 30,000 plus, but I don't know if that's out of all of their surveys total or this one for its time, so I'm going to asterisk that. But it's 29% of people globally say that they're willing to switch back to an internal combustion engine car that they already own an EV. But in the United States, that number is 46%. Now, Rachel and I thought that number was a little bit high, a little bit overinflated.
Well, I'll say more than that. It doesn't sound overinflated. It honestly, to me, that sounds completely outside my experience. Like, I've never met anybody who has driven an EV that said they wouldn't want to buy another one. I don't know where those numbers are coming from. I don't know who these people are, but they're not anybody we know. That's all I'm saying.
And a lot of the EV forums and EV threads have put out a whole lot of surveys of EV owners that are on those forums saying, well, is this you? Would you switch back? And it's like 99 to 100% say no, we're never going away from an EV, we're never going back to ICE. But that could also be skewed because people who really like EVs are going to be the ones in those forums anyway. So what I want to do with this video is look into these reasons and look into the reasons why and address them. According to the survey, 35% say their reason for wanting to switch back to ICE is because of charging infrastructure in public not being good enough to use. 34% say total costs of ownership are too high. 32% say driving patterns on long distance trips are too much impacted. 24% say they cannot charge at home. 21% say needing to worry about charging is too stressful. 16% say changing mobility requirements, and 13% say they do not like the driving experience. So let's talk about the first one, the charging infrastructure in public not being good enough for use.
All right, so here's the thing with that. It's true that public charging infrastructure is not good, especially if you're talking about outside of the Tesla network. The Tesla network is actually quite good, but a lot of EVs can't use that. So I can understand how that might be an issue. What I don't understand is if that's an issue in your area and that was important to you, why did you buy an EV in the first place? But that might be a sales issue. Like the people who are, like dealers who are selling EVs to people who really are not the right customers for them. I don't know, it's weird.
We've encountered this on our road trips before at CCS chargers, of people not knowing what to do when they get to the charger, not knowing how to find them, not knowing how to activate the fast charger, and that comes down to education at the dealership. When they take delivery of the car, the dealerships are doing a poor job of teaching the new EV owner how to use the EV. We have a whole video on that out already. That's one part of it.
Well, yeah, and in our experience, they just don't do anything. The dealers don't understand electric vehicles. They're happy to sell you the car, but they don't teach you how to use it. This is new technology. This is not something that you just learned when you were 15 years old learning how to drive. Someone has to teach you this stuff. And if you haven't bothered to take the initiative to learn, and nobody is taking the initiative to teach you, like the person who's selling it to you, which would be reasonable, then you're confused, and that I can understand.
And the other part of it is CCS charging, in our experience, has gotten to the point where the number of CCS EVs on the road surpass the charging infrastructure. Our last road trip with our Bolt, we encountered waits at charging stops. At every charging stop, whether it was in Austin or in the middle of the country just outside of Waco, there were waits at the CCS chargers. We were at a FreeWire and the battery on that charger had died. Those are battery-powered DC fast chargers. If they don't have power in the battery, they're level 2 chargers. That happened to us on a couple of the units. We had about a 30-minute wait at an EVgo to get into a charger, and that's because the CCS installations don't have enough pedestals up to deal with the traffic. If you look at Tesla superchargers, an 8-stall Tesla supercharger is a small one, where for Electrify America, 8 is huge.
Right.
EVgo, 8 is unheard of. But if we go to a Buc-ee's, we'll have 2 to 3 dozen or more Tesla supercharger pedestals up. So the CCS network, they've got to catch up on that. Also, so many of the vehicle manufacturers have a deal worked out with Tesla to be able to use the supercharger network, but right now, as of July 4th, 2024, only Ford and Rivian can. As a Chevy Bolt owner, I'm still waiting for GM to say, okay, you can now order your adapter and you can use the Tesla supercharger network.
Yeah, not only that, but the fact that the supercharger network they're getting busy, they're getting full, this is an indication that EVs are more popular, not less, right? That the infrastructure got to where it was sufficient, at least in certain places for a while, but then the EVs became more popular, more people are driving them, and now there are wait times because there are just more people that want to use these chargers than there are chargers available, right?
Yeah, and so to wrap that up, the fast charging and public charging experience is going to get better, even if it just comes around to getting the supercharger adapters worked out and all the software worked out. And whoever's running that, whether that's Tesla or whether that's the individual manufacturers like GM or Hyundai or Volkswagen, or I don't even know if Volkswagen has signed on. Let's go with Volvo Polestar. Get it together, guys. Let's get these things going, because that's what's going to cause people to regret their EV. That one poor woman with the Mercedes in Austin, her husband was just giving her grief about that car. Because the Mercedes dealer, didn't bother to teach her about public charging the vehicle.
Yeah.
So it's going to get better just when the supercharger network is opened up with the adapters. But in the meantime, watch some of YouTube videos, not just mine, other people's. They'll show you how to do these things, how to find chargers, how to find PlugShare, how to use PlugShare, I should say. Let's go on to the cost of ownership. 34% say the cost of ownership has been too high.
All right. So my perspective on this is probably the cost of ownership is high because the cost of the vehicle is high. Most EVs started out being a little more expensive than their internal combustion engine counterparts, and predictably, the auto manufacturers are focusing on more high-end vehicles. They're making these big SUVs, they're making these big luxury vehicles, they're making things trying to be exciting to consumers, and so these are high-end vehicles. And if you want an electric vehicle, there aren't a lot of low-priced options available yet.
So, to that, this is one of my biggest frustrations with Tesla, is focusing right now on robo-taxis and Optimus robots instead of the $25,000 Model 2. The $25,000 Model 2 is what we need. And I don't recall the exact percentage, but from the same exact survey, it is a single-digit percentage of people that say autonomous driving is at the front of their reasons to want to buy an EV, and way over half say, I could take it or leave it, or I just don't care about it. And yet Tesla is focusing on FSD, robo-taxis, and Optimus robots. We need the $25,000 Model 2. Jim Farley at Ford is now prioritizing a $30,000 EV that might be like a Focus EV.
That's smart.
Bring those out. The
Yeah.
price of EVs is going down. What made GM's EV numbers go up is when they dropped the price of the Bolt. The Bolts weren't selling very well. They dropped the price because of the battery recall. That's when we got ours. And all of a sudden, Bolts started selling like hotcakes.
Yeah.
The Blazer EV came out. It was almost as much as a Cadillac Lyriq. They put some incentives on that, get the price down. They start selling. The Mustang Mach-E, really moving a lot of numbers because of the price going down and incentives. The prices are coming down, and that's not even taking federal tax credits into account.
Right. Yeah, and don't even get me started on how those tax credits are sending money to actual people who actually need them to buy a vehicle. Sorry, don't get me started. Don't even get me started on how those tax credits are sending money to actual people who want to buy an actual vehicle rather than subsidizing big oil companies, which you know is where a lot of the money goes, regardless.
Yeah, you don't hear about that with people complaining about government subsidizing EV purchases, but it's way more money that the government spends subsidizing oil production.
Yeah, I do not feel sorry for the oil companies. Sorry.
Anyway.
If you make your living, that's one thing. I get it, you need the money, but the oil companies don't need the money. They're taking the money from you. Anyway.
Perceived cost of ownership, though, in our experience, the maintenance on these is super low. Oil changes, no. Brake pads will last forever. People are going to talk about tires. And we have had some tire replacements, but we're not doing any worse on the tires on these EVs than we did on our Subaru Crosstrek.
That's true.
We really aren't.
Yeah, we've had to replace tires at the same rate on our electric vehicles than we did on our regular gas-powered cars.
Now,
it's not different.
I will say, when we purchased this vehicle, this Tesla, our Geico insurance premium went through the roof. And a lot of folks make comments on my channel about what about the insurance? Well, Geico went up. It went up considerably, and we had been Geico customers for 2 decades, and we're not Geico customers anymore. We switched. We're with Allstate now, and our Allstate premium is no more than what it was without EVs. Geico, for some reason, just really increased the premium on Teslas. So if your insurance premium goes up, shop around. Find another insurance company that you'll be happy with, because they are out there. You don't have to pay through the nose on insurance. So maintenance is low. You can shop insurance. The price is coming down. That can address cost of ownership. Let's go to a 32% saying their driving patterns on long distance trips is too much impacted. Good heavens, we've done several road trips. We talk about, and I get all kinds of comments about how much time people think we're wasting, but that's how we like to do it. If you're one of the people who the first thing you want to do when you get out of the car at your destination is talk about how good a time you made, how fast you got there, you shouldn't be looking for an EV in the first place.
Yeah, that's like that Jeff Foxworthy routine. He's like, we made darn good time.
I made it in 5 hours, 13 minutes.
Yeah, we don't care about that, right? We're gonna take the road trip the way we like to take road trips. We like to take a lot of breaks. We don't mind waiting for the charging. And in the Tesla, we wait even less. In fact, usually the car is waiting on us when we're driving the Tesla on road trips. So, I mean, I get it. Again, if you're the type of person that likes to road trip that way, probably don't buy an electric vehicle. If you want to get in something that's going to, drive 500 miles without a brake, then that's not what electric vehicles are best at.
Or what you could do, if you're interested in electrification, look at a plug-in hybrid. I get a lot of comments.
That's really a good idea.
Talking about how I don't pay as much attention to those as I should. A plug-in hybrid can solve that problem. If you have a 40-mile or less commute, you can use the electric only portion of that car to get around, but on road trips you can use gasoline. And you're fine, and you're going to have all kinds of range. The problem is a lot of people don't use their plug-in hybrids the right way. They use them as passive hybrids, and they'll just fill it up with gas and try to get charged from regen. But a plug-in hybrid, you've got to plug it in to get the advantage of the electrification. Otherwise, you're just hauling around that battery weight, which is going to cost you fuel efficiency on your gas mileage.
Right. But the plug-in hybrid is also the solution if you live in an area that doesn't have good infrastructure, or if you live like my friend who lives in Canada and it's just a long way between chargers. That gas, the ability to drive on gas can be really useful when you're in like a charger desert, right?
Still hoping and waiting for our Aptera
I know.
to contact us and say we're ready, but we'll see what happens.
Right.
The next one is 24% of people saying, "You want me to hold this for a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Let your arm, give your arm a break."
No problem.
24% say that they're considering switching back to ICE because they can't charge at home. I'm not going to lie, charging at home is a huge advantage to EV ownership because we never have to worry about going to a gas station.
That's right. Yeah, we never go to gas stations. I mean, if you can't charge at home, again, that's another question. Like, why did you buy an electric vehicle in the first place?
Well, because you might want one.
I mean, I guess if you want one, that's fine. But if you don't have the ability to charge at home, you're significantly impacting the efficiency of owning it, and that's a huge benefit. So, again, if you're telling me that a huge portion of people bought an electric vehicle and didn't consider that they're not going to be able to charge at home, that was, again, an error in judgment. That was someone who didn't fully understand what they were buying. I would guess. Otherwise, why would you decide that was a good enough reason not to buy another one?
Okay, not gonna lie, this is a cool car. It's got some neat bells and whistles. It's got some neat gadgets, and when you drive it and you step on it, it's fun to drive. And you could have just gotten caught up in the ether of that and not considered where can I plug it in and all of that. But if you own your home, put in a level 2 charger. They're
so worth it.
They're really not that expensive. They're so worth it. You could get yourself just a 240 plug that you can plug into, or you could have the thing hardwired in. Or with us, it ended up essentially being a net zero cost because our electric provider gave us a rebate that covered the cost of the installation of the charger.
Yeah.
And we had some rebates on the level 2 charger itself, and it ended up being dirt cheap, almost close to nothing by the time that we finished paying for it. Now, I'm not saying everybody can get that, but it's not as complicated as you think of installing a level 2 charger. And don't believe those memes that say it takes the whole energy of your house to charge your car. Well, yeah, maybe, but it doesn't do it all at once. It's like you're running the oven or the electric dryer for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So it's renters that are
Right.
going to have the problem of not being able to charge, especially if they live in an apartment complex.
Exactly.
And that is something. If the if we want to have some assistance from the government on EV adoption, it doesn't need to be in subsidizing DC fast charging. Let Tesla, let Electrify America, let those companies do that. Spend a fraction of the money, and let's get some level 2 chargers put in at these big apartment complexes.
That would be such a smart move. Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I'm not holding my breath. It's not like apartment managers are really excited to care for the environment or the people who live in their apartments.
Well, that's probably the one that's where the
But
little
if
bit more
anybody
accurate.
wanted to, that would make sense. If you live in a co-op, like if you live in a cooperative apartment and you have some influence over how that money is spent, that everyone contributes to the maintenance fund, see if maybe that's something that you might want to consider advocating for, getting some level 2 chargers put into your unit or into your complex. Yeah.
21% say needing to worry about charging is too stressful. Now, I have to think this is directly tied to the not being able to charge at home.
Yeah.
Because even before we had our level 2 charger, and we only had to rely off a level 1 off of a 120 plug, we didn't stress out that much about it. And with the level 2 charger here, we don't stress out at all.
No, it's completely non-stressful. It's less stressful than it was when we had to go buy gas.
So exactly, because, well, give you some background. We live probably 10 miles away from the closest gas station, so we have to plan ahead when we were buying gas. Here we get out of the car, reach over to the plug on the wall and plug it in. It is so much easier for us. But our situations isn't going to be true for everybody, and I'm not going to pretend that it would be, but you can make it less stressful.
Yeah. Again, it's about planning. It's about buying the right vehicle for you, for your circumstance, understanding what you're purchasing, understanding how it works, and understanding what you're getting into before you make the purchase. If you're buying an electric vehicle on impulse, that's probably not smart.
Well, don't buy an electric vehicle on impulse. Buy it on warp. Anyway.
You're funny. All right.
I had to go there. A few people might get that. Anyhow, but I completely forgot what I was going to say. I was like, oh, hey, a joke. but and PlugShare, that's what I was going to say. Please get the PlugShare app. If you buy an electric vehicle, car dealers, any car salesman listening here, find the PlugShare app. Any EV that you deliver, especially to a first-time EV owner, make sure they download the PlugShare app. Make sure they know how to download the Electrify America and EVgo apps, but PlugShare is the most important because it will show you where those chargers are. It will give you real-time updates from EV drivers about whether that charger's working, how well it's working, what the crowds are like, and what's around there. What can you do while your car is charging? Where can you eat? Where can you go to the bathroom? That kind of stuff. PlugShare, PlugShare, PlugShare. Get that app.
Right. It's about planning, you guys. Like you do have to plan your trips. If you're going to be using chargers, you do have to plan your trips. It's not just, jump in the car and go. And I get that. If some people don't like traveling that way, they don't like that they have to plan, maybe the EV isn't for you. I can understand that.
The next one was changing mobility requirements. 16% say they would consider going back to an ICE vehicle because of that. Now, I can understand you moving from Texas or North Dakota or California to Montana or anywhere in West Virginia. There are some charging deserts in this country, and maybe you could charge at home, but where you're moving to now is a rental where you can't, and the nearest public charger is too far away, and if you simply can't fuel the car up, that I fully understand that one.
Well, I get that. I'm not sure that's what they meant by mobility. Usually mobility refers to the mobility of your body.
Well, this survey is specifically referring to mobility as the car.
Mobility of the car?
As the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sure.
That's just the vocabulary that they use in the survey.
All right.
13% say they don't like the driving experience.
I don't know who those people are. I tell you what, I mean, if there are people that have driven an electric vehicle and don't like it, I have never met them. I don't know who any of these people are. Everybody that I've talked to loves driving electric vehicles. Now, not everyone loves...
Except your son.
He doesn't like the Tesla.
He doesn't like the Bolt either.
Oh.
I'm talking about John.
Oh, I just lied. I don't know that.
He's okay with them, but he doesn't feel like he gets as good of road feel out of an electric vehicle and things like that. I mean, there are people out there that are like that.
Right.
But the ones that I find that are there are younger and in their 20s, and as they get into their 30s and 40s, might like a little bit more of a smoother experience.
Okay, you know what? I stand corrected. Like, I guess there are some people that just prefer that. But for the most part, driving an electric vehicle is really fun and comfortable. And so most people do like it. But sure, if you have that personal opinion that you don't like it, fine, fair. I
will say that my personal opinion is I thoroughly enjoy driving all of our electric vehicles. The Tesla, it was the newest one to us, so right now it's kind of at the front of my mind, but I got to take the Bolt out recently, and that car's great to drive. Rachel loves the Fiat.
I do.
And the Livewire is the most fun I've ever had riding a motorcycle. But I will say that that's a personal opinion, and it is my personal opinion and Rachel's personal opinion, and your mileage may vary, literally.
Yeah, I mean, we're not here to tell you that your opinion is wrong. If that's the way you feel, that's valid. So
I want to move on to another part of the survey real quick if I can, and I don't want to take a whole lot of time on this, but there's another thing that talked about what keeps people from wanting to make the switch to EVs, and the number one reason about 60% of everybody surveyed, and again this is worldwide, globally, was familiarity. That half of the people, or a little over half, say they've never heard of an EV and don't know how to explain them or what they are. And man, we're sitting in a car that has been around for 6 years. This make and model, with the only difference in appearance are the door handles chrome or black, and some minor things here. This car is not new, and there's a lot of them out there, and people are going, what is that?
Well, that's globally, though. I mean, that's globally. I mean, if you live in a place that doesn't have a huge EV market, or you live in a place where people don't drive as much because they have public transportation, or they live in a walkable city, like, there is not as much reason for you to have this in your consciousness. And so I mean, where we live, we see electric vehicles every day now, right? This is really common, but that doesn't mean that everybody in the world lives in a place where this is common knowledge. That's totally fine.
But again, you come across people that don't realize your car's electric, your Fiat.
Oh, it happens all the time. Nobody knows my Fiat's electric until I tell them. Yeah.
So 55% say they won't go to an EV because they're skeptical of technology and they don't want to occupy themselves with new technology.
Fair.
46% perceive the cost of ownership as too high. We've addressed that.
It is sometimes. Yeah.
29% say range anxiety because they believe of insufficient range or charging infrastructure. We've got a video on range anxiety. A lot of that is mindset. Don't drive it to empty and then try to fill it all up at one time. If you come up with a schedule, change your mindset on how and when you charge.
Mm-hmm.
You charge when you can, not when you need to.
Right.
29% say they have no ability to charge at home. Well, there's fixes for that. And 14% worldwide, 18% in the United States, according to the survey, are petrol heads. These are, that's according to the survey, not to me. They say they just enjoy driving a combustion car. I get that. I really do get that. I love the sound of a well-tuned engine, the roar of a V8, the whine of a turbo, the stick shift on a manual transmission. I enjoy that stuff, but I like this car better. So to each their own. The biggest issue that people have is the perception that they're going to be forced to get an EV,
Okay.
and that's just not true.
Again, you know, the perception is there. Okay, I'm just gonna say it seems to me that there is some sort of a desire or a push to spread as many negative stereotypes about EVs as possible, even when they've been debunked, even when they're not true. I get people coming up to me all the time going, oh, but they're so expensive, or oh, you know, they don't have a far enough range, or oh, they take too long to charge. And these are just myths. These are things that were maybe true, 20 years ago.
Or, they're worse for the environment. I'll have a video on that
Oh
coming
yeah,
soon.
them being worse for the environment than cars, than gas-powered cars, which is also not true. These are just myths. These are things that may have a grain of truth in them, or they may have been true at one time, but they keep getting spread over and over and over again because somebody just thinks it's a good idea to make people not like electric vehicles. I don't know. It's weird.
So let's just go ahead and wrap this up with some good news and some possible fixes. So this same survey was done in December of 2021, and the survey that's making the news now was really in February of 2024. So it was months ago that this survey was done. But people who say that the next vehicle purchase is going to be a battery electric vehicle was 14% in 2021. It's up to 18% now. So that has gone up. People who intend to buy one. To buy a plug-in hybrid was 17%, is now up to 20%. The number of people who say they do not want to switch to an EV and are not interested in switching to an EV has gone from 24% in 2021 down to 21% now. These are statistics from the same exact survey that the news is posting up about how it's the end of EVs. It's not. EV sales are still growing. Tesla's taken a hit, but I don't think that has anything to do with people not liking EVs. I think it has to do with more choices being out there, more EV choices being viable, and the company's priorities. I addressed that earlier in the video. They're really shifting to things that I would prefer they weren't, and have them focus on the other things, and a lot of it is kind of the CEO. But then we move on to what can we do to fix the charging infrastructure. We definitely have to either or both get the CCS network more reliable and a more plentiful. There need to be more working chargers and charger pedestals at these locations.
Right.
And we also need to speed up the NACS transition, get those adapters out, get the software patches fixed so that all of these car manufacturers that have their agreements to be able to use the supercharger network can start using the Tesla supercharger network. And let's get some level 2 chargers installed at apartment complexes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, dealers, get somebody in your dealership who learns about electric vehicles and can be your go-to guy when they sell one, so you can educate your customers. If you're a customer or you want to get an EV, educate yourself, because the dealers aren't doing it right now. Learn what you need to know so that you make the right choice for your situation, your preferences, the things that you care about. If you genuinely don't like your EV or you don't want one, fine, but base that decision on real information and not on these crazy exaggerated myths.
And the number one thing that can be done to help out people learn to like their EVs or have a good experience with their, I should say it as have a good experience with their EV, is we need to get education out there. And that's one of the goals of this channel for us, is to get education out there about EVs, what our experiences are. We're going to continue to do that. There are plenty of other YouTube channels out there that do it, that have a larger reach. There are a lot of people out there with their EVs that love them so much they've started their channels. Get the education out there. Get yourself educated on on how your car works, and educate other people as well. A lot of these reasons why people might want to switch back to an ICE vehicle have to come down to not having the information that they needed.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap the video up now. This ended up being longer than I had intended.
We had a lot to say.
We had a lot to say, and we had fun doing it. So we're going to have more videos coming out. I had a push over the summer where I was putting out at least 2 videos a week, sometimes 3, and now life is happening, and we're going to be going back down to the 1 video a week schedule for a while. Don't be surprised if it looks like we're dried up. We're still going to be putting the stuff out there. So subscribe for more content. We're going to have plenty coming out. Give us a like if you found this video entertaining or informative, or if you just want to, make Fiona happy.
Yeah.
She's right here. She's asleep right now. But thanks for watching, y'all. We'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.